So her book was inspired by Hunter S. Thompson and her time working for him, but she changed things, and then again we changed things for the movie, so we could explore this territory. But part of it was addiction and codependence, the subconsciousness of that, unhealed people, a coming of age story, this kind of 90s element mixed with when you meet him, his 60s world, writer, their art, how you can get trapped in your own art and then forced into a box, and how frustrating that is because you do get love like that and you do get money like that and you get attention like that, and yet it's also cut off your artistic freedom and you resent it too, being stuck in that thing. So there was just a lot of elements, beauty and beauty as commodity, and just so, and also the exploration of drugs and like, wow, this is all fun. Oh my God, this is a nightmare. It's all fun and games till it really gets ugly.
I've got a defect in my brain where every time I start something, I kind of forget about everything else and it feels like the first time. So I don't worry about that so much. And as far as where you are in the sense of a career or where you are in the arc of making work, I can't gauge that at all because it depends who you talk to and it depends what you're interested in. So I don't have sense of that. I guess I try not to think about it. I make a conscious effort not to think about where I am in the arc of my life, or I'm even a little allergic to the word career. Um, One thing at a time, one project at a time. So I get it. To me, it translates more about. There's a theme here about an older man, at the end of his creative life without judgment of whether it's gone down or not, and a young woman who's just starting, and what the attraction of one is to the other. Uh, that interests me because I know a little something about that, and I have an imagination for that. So that's not why you do it, but that was one of the themes I could relate to. There was a shotgun shell in the pocket, which is, wasn't surprising, but was surprising. I still have the robe.
It was by accident. We didn't know that we started shooting on Hunter's birthday. And at the end of the first day, we opened the door and it was like a rainbow, a giant rainbow right outside the door. So it felt like a good omen. But I also wanted to say the question you asked earlier, to be in a box. We're talking about being inspired by this archetype, well, not an archetype, this artist who really came out with a totally original voice and changed the world and was very celebrated for that. And that's an incredible thing. But then also, really, people do like to say, no, no, you got to do that thing. And he was, I mean, this is loosely based on him, but he was political and he loved sports and many different things. And you shouldn't have to diminish yourself.
I actually didn't meet Cheryl until we were already, I think, about halfway through filming, and she came by. And then we connected and we got to chat, and she gave me her blessing, which was, I think, it was really, it just gave me like a reassurance that it was the right thing for me to be doing. But I think with Patricia, what we talked a lot about was the evolution of coming in kind of bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and then, having kind of that journey in the middle where there's a bit of a deterioration physically, and the drugs and the impact of that and the rhythm of keeping up with Walker, and then kind of this awakening at the end of the story. And ultimately, Allie chooses to leave her book behind, her journal behind, and leave with herself. And I think that she chooses herself ultimately when, before, I think it's very interesting when you're a young person, it's very hard, it's very easy to blur the lines between what your boundaries are and unspoken boundaries. And I find that as a young person myself, I could really connect to that aspect of her, especially when you're trying to please someone and to do your job, and you've been hired to do something and you really want to make someone proud. I could just totally relate to that. It's something that I've explored and struggled with. But yeah, there was a lot of things about this character that I found similarities with myself, and Patricia helped guide me, and we created a nice little arc, I think, for Allie. And the place that she gets to at the end, I think, is a very empowering place for a young woman.
Most of life is unconscious. We're just moving through life and feelings come up and we ride with that feeling, or a desire comes up and we go with that desire. And we don't even realize that we're kind of blurring lines and stepping over our own boundaries and changing in different ways until we have these pivotal moments. And then you have to make a decision. Like, she arrives there as a young person, but she leaves as a woman. And how do we arrive there? It's not always the easiest journey. There's this quote, you find the teeth to match your wounds. You find teachers all over the place that help you grow as people. And sometimes they're younger people. Who knows what it is, but there is pushback. It's not like, yeah, whatever. That's not the person that teaches you anything, except how to take. The people that teach you or stir up your unprocessed wounds are the people that are pushing back on different little ways. She also steps over boundaries that in her own self and towards him that are also not cool. So they end up injuring each other in different ways.
There was often a show to put on. I felt physically that pressure that I had to drive. There's a group there, and they're there for me a little bit. I mean, in the context of they're there for Walker, and he's a performer, and I think you see that. Yeah, so physically, I didn't dwell too much on his physical state. Just that he had to keep it up all the time. He had to. He was amped up, and then you see in his more private moments, his more vulnerable moments, that all drops away, and then you do feel some kind of fatigue, and that's when then his age haunts him, and that's when, the toll of the drugs haunts him.